Hi everyone. Thank you for joining today. Today we're going to be talking about the latest outputs from the FX workstream. And this workstream has been extremely active over this PI, so we've got some great results to report. Paul Baker is going to present today. I don't expect that this will be a very long session because we have had previous reports from this workstream, but we'll be guided by Paul on that. So over to you, Paul, I think.
Thanks, Paul. I do have a presentation, so let me share that. Here we go. Is that visible?
Yep, perfectly visible. Thank you.
Okay, great. So what's the progress been? And that was a good summary, Paul. We did a lot. So so we've got detailed designs, the discovery component. Um, I see I didn't do such a good job. The on-demand discovery component changes we put in place. Uh, oh my, sorry. I'm mixing work streams. Sorry, the discovery component changes were done, and then FX quotes and transfers, all the components. We implemented the serial in the switch. Um,
First implementation of a Cyril anywhere in the world. So thank you.
yes, I know. And for those who don't know what a sorrel is, well, does anyone? Uh, no, it's a really good name, actually. I quite like it. It's essentially the flows of the FX transfer um, uh, it, is really about agreement between three different parties without ever involving the third party in any of the agreement messages. And that involves keeping track of a bit of a state inside the deep switch, and the Cyril is the component that does that. Um, and then there were Mojaloop connector enhancements, settlement. That was a surprise. We were expecting settlement to just work, the net settlement, but it didn't. And that was because the existing settlement code was based off the participants of a transfer. And if you know the FX flows well, you will know that the participants in the transfer aren't the participants in the financial movement of funds, because the FX stands in for the payer, in a payer initiated transfer. So that didn't work. We needed changes made to those. Golden path test collection. Uh, the golden path test, for those who don't know, is our test against the switch to make sure, uh, for regression purposes, but also to make sure that we've deployed the switch correctly. It is our happy plus unhappy path testing each of the use cases and functionalities that we got. So it obviously made sense to extend that golden path test collection to include the FX transfers and types of transfers and checks. So that has been done. We have some hub reports that show details of an FX transfer movement. And then we've additionally made changes to Payment Manager UI. So now, as a participant, as a payer or a payee or an FXP, you can now trace the transfer, and you can see the details of the transfer. In fact, I think we took that view a little bit further and broke it down into well, we got some screens I'll show you later, but we essentially included things like terms and fees. So I think it's a more generalized view of these components as well. Uh, so the test collection, I've got two links here. The FX test collection is now an integral subfolder in the golden path. And then we've got specifically net settlement tests that are coming in. These are still sitting on branches. We are hoping for members of the DA to help the review so we can get everything merged and part of the release, which is one of the next objectives that we're working towards. Uh, Detailed reports. I actually quite like these reports. I put a lot of effort in to try and mock them out, and then when I gave them to VJ, he did an even better job and came up with something that's very readable and understandable. So I think the combination has resulted in some good stuff. We can query all the transfers, and then we get a detailed breakdown. You can't see all the details here, but just notice we've got position changes, we've got technical details, transfer terms, conversion terms, and then summary of the transfer itself, which is a really nice detailed view of every aspect of a transaction, cross-currency transaction. There are a lot of messages, so this is a really good collated view of exactly what happened. Okay. Payment manager changes. This is what they look like. So you can now search. Well, this, if those who are not familiar with Payment Manager, this is how it works. You have an overview with an indication of uh, um, when messages came through. Because this is test, we just seeing spikes. But in a real system, this would be a proper curve showing demand over time. And then when you do a search and you get a detailed view of the transfers, then instead of a detail and technical details, we now have transfer details, transfer terms, transfer parties, and technical details. So a nice separation. And you can see here we've got receive amount and receive currency, send amount, send currency, and you got the conversion type, the conversion institution, conversion state, etc. We've also got um, the transfer terms.
Oh, are
Okay.
these separate windows for a transfer that includes an FX? Or I mean, it should just be a transfer, surely. So it should
Yeah,
be
yeah,
sub-windows.
it is so at the bottom here we've got find a transfer. So if a transfer is an FX transfer, then it has the conversion
So there's
information built
different
in.
window content depending on whether there's an FX involved or not.
Yeah, if there isn't FX transfer, as some of them are just grayed out and others are actually hidden,
Right.
based on, so it does adjust based on whether it's a normal transfer or an FX transfer.
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
Um, and we got some nice little copy buttons, so we can easily copy the transfer IDs if you need to do other searches. So there's been a sort of a relook and revisit of this UI component. I think if you're familiar with this, you will like the upgrade.
I was familiar with the old
Um,
version. It's good to see the usability being improved.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
These bottom three screens here is a summary of the what the DFSP sees. But we've also got conversion details, which is what the FXP sees. So if you did do conversions, I think the DFSP can see the conversions too separately. If they're just interested in the conversions that they're getting from different
Mm.
DFSPs, they can break them down and just look at them in that light. But for an FXP, they don't have a transfer. They just got the FX quote and FX transfer messages, which are correlated into this conversion details view.
I thought they
And
did have a
so they've
transfer
got
because they
detailed
were
conversion
standing in
terms.
for the payer. So they have a transfer, do they not? So I'm not trying to be
They're
pedantic,
not
but
part of they're not part of the transfer message. They do get a position change during the normal transfer, but um, they are not part of the transfer message.
okay.
The transfer message is just between the two end participants, which is the payer and the payee, DFSP.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got changes
Okay.
to that, and then
Oh, sorry. I just think needed some clarity on that. So there's a transfer between payer and payee, but the initial part of the transfer is, well, the payer has a conversation with the FXP that provides the destination currency, and then that destination currency, as I understand it in the simple model, is transferred directly from the FXP to the payee FSP. Is that not correct?
yes, that
Okay.
is correct, but there is no message. The messages flow between the uh, the payer and the FXP
Yeah.
to establish an agreement on the conversion.
Yeah.
And then there's a transfer between the two to then indicate that they've agreed to that conversion, and then they link it to a dependent transfer. So the FXP will be given that dependent transfer ID, um, and then the transfer happens between the end participants. So at that
Okay. That
at
makes
that
sense.
stage, the
Yeah.
FXP is not involved.
Yeah.
So the messages flow in a different direction to how the money flows.
Yeah. So the pay, yes, of course. So the
So
payee has full visibility of who the payer is ultimately.
yes, the pay and the
Yeah.
payee have full visibility of each other because they're agreeing to the
Yeah.
transfer. And the FXP has got a relationship with the payer, so the FXP and the payer agree to terms.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah,
As
no,
far as the payee, just getting a transfer in their currency from the payer.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you do a cross currency in the inter scheme environment where the FXP is not in the payee's scheme, then it looks like a single currency transfer to the payer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
Okay. So, so where we hoping to end up, well, what's planned as part of the end of the PI is we're going to get this functionality in the next Mojaloop release. So there's some merging into master. We do know that this component is deployable. We've been deploying it off branches, and we know it's incorporated into infrastructure as code. So we're very confident that it can be deployed. It's
Mm.
just a matter of getting all the feature branches merged and made officially part of the Mojaloop release.
And can I highlight that those people on the call who are members of the DA, there is a request for a reviewing of the PRs relating to this so that we can get it to that release, please.
Yeah, practically, there's not too many people who can do it.
No, exactly.
So, yeah,
We don't want the
yeah,
DA to be a roadblock, is all I'm
yeah, that's true. Okay. Um, then work that we are uh, currently working on, and that is financial portal enhancements. Um, uh, at the moment, the financial portal still works, but it shows you the transfer information without the currency conversion. And that can be very deceiving because the transfer is in the target currency, and sometimes the people working with it, or especially in an inter-scheme set of schemes, you might not have any dealings in the currency that the transfer is in. So it becomes a bit confusing. So we do need to enhance the finance portal to co to collate all these different parts, the conversion with the transaction to make them visible together. So that's the work that's in progress at the moment. Things that have not been yet will have not yet been tackled is the Mojaloop connector supporting amount type receive. So let me explain this in an easier to understand way. When you, well, the way I think about it, let's put it this way, let me describe it this way, is you either sending money, in other words, you've got money that's locally in your account and you're sending it to someone, and then fees get detracted off that amount and they get a target currency. Or you are paying for something in foreign currency. So if you're specifying a receive amount, you in that second mode, it's maybe a merchant payment use case. You're paying for some goods in a foreign currency, and we need to then work out how much to deduct from your account to be able to make that payment. So those are the two types. This only involves changes in the Mojaloop connector and then the tests. So most of the work's actually around building the test cases to ensure that this, in fact, meets all the objectives. So everything's in place for it, but it is an outstanding piece of work. Pay conversion, we haven't done that yet. Bulk conversion, we haven't done it yet. Get services, we haven't done that yet, and multiple FXP support. So we do currently support multiple FXPs in the switch, but each participant has to choose which FXP they're going to use. We don't have a dynamically choose the cheapest FXP providing a rate currently. So this is maybe a little too hard a statement, but it's certainly something that we're thinking and planning on at the moment. And then the last point is continuous gross settlement support for FX transactions. That also needs some work.
And so is it fair to say that at the end of this PI, this work stream has delivered enough to support the COMESA work, and the rest is more general?
That is the objective, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the imperative to get to the next work? What are the requirements?
Sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
On this side, in future, for example, all of those things, the top 5 ones, certainly, was my understanding of things that we absolutely have to deliver at some future point, but we don't actually have an adopter that needs them at the moment. Is that fair to say?
I think this receive type is going to happen sooner. I don't know the exact timing of it, but there's not a lot of work there. I think that has to happen. I also think a multiple FX support will also happen fairly soon. Those are the lowest hanging fruit. Is basically these two, and they will have an impact on an adopter. So just speculating, I would say that's probably in the wings. But
yeah, my view would be that the first of those is one that we will have to deliver really quite quickly, because that's the one that supports purchases.
Sorry, you broke up there, Mike.
No, I'm sorry, it's me coughing. I apologize.
That's the one that supports purchases.
Yes, supports purchases. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And most of the work for that is around building the test cases to ensure that the functionality is working. We don't like deploying anything without thorough testing to support something. So, and there's quite a lot of components that need that. So a small amount of code, lots of testing.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I suppose one thing that I would add is we the design proposes that you should be able to manage conversion via a reference currency. That I think will require changes at the TTK payment manager structures, but should not require changes at the switch. But obviously, it will also need testing.
Yeah, that's we would need payee conversion. So if we got payee conversion in place, that reference currency would work.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want it on as a as a use case that we need to be able to provide support for.
Okay. Yeah. You may in my head they were tied together, but it's worth pointing out that it is a that getting the payee conversion in place would support the reference currency conversion.
Well, overall, we seem to be in remarkably good shape. So, well done to you and the team, Paul.
Yep. Yeah, I must say it's been a lot more work than I initially thought when we embarked on this. But certainly one that is quite satisfying when you see all the end pieces come together. It is quite a complicated setup, and well worth it.
It touches on virtually every element of the core, doesn't it? Because it's adding an extra transaction type in there. Yes. So it's a major piece of work.
And things like the transaction states needed to be changed as well.
Yes.
So it's touched on some sort of fundamental concepts in the core.
Okay. So let's open it to questions. Does anyone have any questions or comments to make? I think the only other thing I would say is this part about making it past the next Mojaloop release. In the core and releases, Paul, we had yesterday, we were talking about trying to get this out for Mojaloop 17 in time for the convening in Kigali. So that's the target. So that'll be Sam managing that, but in conjunction with the DA. So thank you.
Yeah, I know we had a name, but I couldn't remember it. Sorry?
Yeah, I'd like to say I remember the name, but I don't, Paul. I'd have to go and look for it.
Yeah, sorry for any background noise here, but the name we had, I think, was Irravani. Unless you want to revisit that, Paul. But
yeah,
but also, I'll start. Yep. Paul, great work here to you, the team, and the work streams. But I think as we go into the release work, we'll probably recognize there is more to do as well to make it ready for adoption. So looking forward to collaborating on that. Thanks.
Okay.
I mean, it's not anything that surprising, but things that you touched on as well, like finance portal, supporting components and aspects as well.
Okay, great.
Good. Any other questions, anyone? No? Okay, good. Well, thank you, Paul. That's a great update, and it's good that the community is aware of how much you've done on this and the progress that's been made and when they can expect it to be available for adoption. So thank you very much for taking the time. Oh, Andre, you got in just in time.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Paul. I just had a question around the FXP effectively would integrate at the switch level, right? Like, so I wanted this was like massively zoomed into the detail, but I just wanted to take a step back. And so is that correct?
No, the FSP is a role that a DFSP has. So an FXP.
Okay, got it. So an FSP can only be existing DFSPs.
Yes, because it has to be able to settle.
Oh, but if an independent FX provider could have an account at a DFSP and also settle.
No, absolutely. And in that case, you could do that in one of two ways. Either you could say the independent currency converter is a registered entity in the system, a registered participant.
Yeah.
Or you could say it's a role of the DFSP which they use to settle. Either of those.
And then there is some kind of logic in getting the lowest quote and all of that stuff, right?
Well, it's more difficult. So that's more difficult. The way in which it's structured at the moment is it simply returns a list of people who could provide that service, i.e. that conversion in that corridor. We don't, and then it's up to the DFSP or to the payment manager representing the DFSP to decide to make one or more quotation requests to find out how much it would cost to convert a particular payment. Okay, and then based on the results of that, the DFSP or the payment manager representing the DFSP can decide which of those quotations to accept and take forward.
Okay. Right. Okay, so it's not automatic, but it can be.
So we may want in the future to start building things on top of this this initial structure to automate that process and to say, please send me, where there are multiple DFSPs, please send me all of the quotes, and there may be a set of configuration options that a DFSP can use to say, always give me the lowest one or something, some other algorithm. But to build to compose those additional services on top of the initial building blocks, I think would not be problematic. Essentially, it's just a matter of automating sequences of functionality which exists in what we see here. So we haven't done anything of that yet because, it's early days.
Okay, got it.
In principle, say, composing the building blocks into more sophisticated services is something that can be done without any changes either to the API or to the switch.
Okay. Super. So it's possible in the future.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's possible now. So
but it'll be automated fully in the future.
Well, this is something which I think a product council really should be discussing and deciding. Because it would not be right, I think, for the technical people to say, okay, well, these are the services that we think people will want. This is where we want people who are actually going to use those services to say, no, this is how we would like to behave. And for the technical people then to build services which meet those responses. Rather than sort of, as I say, going off and deciding, which in my experience, although it can result in terrific things, quite often results in things which are not quite how people want to work. So I'm going to put that responsibility, the responsibility for composing further services on top of these building blocks, fairly firmly with the product council, if that's all right with its august leader, Mr. Macon.
And I think that the product council is very happy to accept that responsibility. At this stage, it's a matter for producing the basic functionality, and from there we can look to see how we can build in the future. But one of the challenges that product council faces is that adopters are not necessarily aware of the art of the possible. So it's important to build a basic service, and for them to say, yeah, that's great, except I'd like it to work this way. So I think that that's the next stage of this process, and how I'd expect it to evolve from this point on. But until you have something in the perhaps bluntest terms, something they can complain about, it's very difficult for most adopters to see that what you are delivering is something that could potentially meet their needs.
What, you mean they don't trust me?
No. Of course they don't.
Oh,
I know it's a blow.
it is a blow.
Yeah.
I'm cut.
But no, and it is for product council, not or the adopters who choose to attend product council to try and shape that kind of thing. We need more of them to come along to product council and express their views, to see what has been done and to say, yes, that's great, except I want it to do Y, not X. So then come and tell us.
Indeed. Which is why we're so glad that Arunjay has turned up.
Yes. And also that we have the some members of the GTM team here, Manzi and Steve, are here. And these three are great examples of the kind of people we need to be coming to this meeting to tell the technical people what they should be doing. Product council I always view as the place where the technical and the business people can meet and tell each other what they should be doing or what they are doing. So it's good when we get the non-technical people to come along. Okay, anything else? Anything else anyone feels they'd like to get off their chest? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Next week, there won't be a product council because I'm taking some vacation, but we'll resume the week after that. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.